All right.
The link you posted in the comments though doesn't work.
No. Okay, we're live. So yeah, if they're following, if they're subscribing, they'll just get the. Hi, I'm Brett. You're on our channel, and this is DockerCon. We're here in the actual lobby area. It's a little quiet right now because everybody's at lunch, so it's actually a good time for us to talk about the events. I'm here with a whole group of people. We're actually to talk about the events. I'm here with a whole group of people. We're actually going to go through into introductions, and then we'll get to like the events, the happenings of the week, and we'll just talk about what's going on at DockerCon and the Docker community.
Cool. Hey everybody, I'm Laura Taco. I'm a Director of Engineering at CloudBees. I'm working mostly on CI/CD stuff for the last 4+ years. I'm also Docker Captain with Brett and Nils here. We have a lot of exciting news and kind of quick takes from the keynote announcements to share with you in just a bit.
Hi, I'm Nils from Belgium, co-founder of a company called WooRank, working in digital marketing space. Also the CTO, so doing containers for 5 years now in our company. Also a Docker Captain. And yeah, pretty excited about this live stream. And first of all, Brett, congratulations with your
Yeah,
new...
Brett's really humble, but he won the Captain's Award.
Yeah, what's the
today.
title again? Like, Tip of the Hat?
Tip of the Hat
Hat.
Award
Yeah.
to the captains, yeah. Yeah, so I guess the community now votes for community awards for the meetup organizers. So the community leaders program is meetup organizers and people that sort of lead the community online. And people are throwing in comments, good.
Awesome.
And then we then had a captain's award. I guess the other captains voted to pick the captainiest captain.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and this is the first year we're doing that, so I got to be the winner on this one. And then
Where's your
I guess
hat?
we'll
Somewhere.
on the floor in a box. So yeah, there's a captain's hat. So we had some announcements today, but we have some special guests, so we'll save some announcements. Basically, a bunch of software was released this week, and open source was announced today. Some new open source standards as well as software, and other sort of partnerships with different organizations. But we'll get through all that, and we'll talk about cool stuff. So why don't we bring on a couple of our guests? First up, Stefan from Docker, actually, and he'll just sort of make an introduction and talk about how you got started.
Yeah, right. First of all, hi community. Good, thank you very much, Brett, for having me, actually.
Yeah.
And the fun stuff why I'm standing here is not only because I'm part of Docker, actually, but this nice gentleman actually took great part in getting me into Docker by using your Udemy courses.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah, it was really great because you know how it is. You have so many courses online. There's so many different quality.
Yeah.
But with your courses, I actually pulled through.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's great. In fact, we were talking online about it, and I was like, am I allowed to now put in my course, get a job at Docker by taking my course? But it's great. I mean, obviously you were doing stuff, in the community before. That's not your first tech job, right? Like you.
Exactly.
Yeah. What did you do before Docker?
Before I came to Docker, I was at Trend Micro actually, and so I was really concentrated on the securing side of the Docker engine, so to say.
Oh, okay.
And this was also the introduction for me to Docker, because we see a lot of companies picking up the technology now on the enterprise level.
Yep.
And therefore, it was also interesting for me to dive into this community even more, because it's such a big and great community.
Right.
And awesome technology, as it is, of course.
Is there a meetup in your area, a DockerCon meetup? I mean, a Docker meetup?
Yeah, they are mostly in Berlin.
Oh, okay.
I'm from Germany, so to say, and I'm stayed in Frankfurt, but might be a good idea to actually start that now in Frankfurt as well.
Because you need one more thing to do. Yeah.
Right.
But at least you have this community here that help you, and the community leaders are really great. So the team there that helps everybody get their meetups started and stuff is a good thing. No pressure. But you could be doing more.
Right.
So, well, great. So how long have you been at Docker?
Just 3 months.
Yeah.
So I'm actually a Docker whale baby, so to say.
Whale baby. Is this your first DockerCon?
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
What do you think?
It's amazing. I love it. I love the concept of it. I love to meet so many people like you right now,
Yeah.
and other captains, of course, and really important people at Docker itself. And it's a really great place to hang out.
Yeah.
Really good people here.
Yeah. I haven't been to all of them. Actually, I think Laura has been to all of them. All the Docker cons?
I've been to almost all of them.
Yeah.
My team was at the very first DockerCon, but I missed it because
Oh, that's
I
right.
was on my family got invited to the D-Day ceremony at Omaha Beach, and that
Decided
was
to do
more
that.
important.
Yeah.
Right.
So I went there. I didn't go to Amsterdam, but I've been at everyone since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, so we've got a lot of history of the Docker community here, so that's always fun to talk to people and compare, because this is not the first time in Barcelona, and we'll
Right.
probably be back again because it's fantastic here. So
Yes.
so what's next for you? Like, what do you? Can you talk about what you're working on? Are you on a particular team where you can focus on something cool?
Yeah, so I'm a solution architect for Docker,
Oh, great.
and I have to quote actually one of the higher ups at Docker because the phrase is just so fitting. I'm here to create raving fans out there
Yeah.
for Docker.
Yeah, that's cool.
So basically, I will be at customer sites. I will help them to implement the enterprise level of Docker.
Yeah.
And I will also be there on site to actually containerize applications, as it is all the part of the modernized traditional applications within
Right.
Docker program.
Yeah, that's definitely a big deal. As we get more enterprise people coming to the conference, and that's the feeling that we've had over the years. Is that each year's come along, more and more enterprises are showing up. It's the startups are still here, and the small scrappy teams that were bleeding edge with Docker early on are still here. But
Right.
you're getting more and more of the companies that need to have a stable product, a secure product before they can actually start using it. It's fun to see them all learning it. Every year there's all these new people that get to learn it all over again, and you get to enjoy watching them.
Right.
Watching them when they're like, oh, that's pretty cool tech. So yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
So you get to do that for a living. So
Yes, indeed.
Right.
And it's lots of fun.
well, thank you so much for being here, Stefan, and congratulations on your Docker employment and being on a cool team for as a solution architect. And I hope
Thank
to
you
see
very
you
much.
here next year.
Yeah, same
Yeah.
to you, and thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks a
very
lot.
much.
All right, so up next we're gonna have actually an award winner. You won the award of being on TV.
Yeah, that's a pretty big award.
Yeah.
I'm Anthony Kiplimo, developer success at Africa Stalking.
Yeah.
So we are
And movie star now. A
yeah, man, this
DockerCon
is crazy.
TV star.
Yeah. As I was telling you earlier, it's funny enough. It's easier to be on camera than in
Yeah.
front of like 200 people.
Yeah.
But it was super fun. I mean, we always love sharing our story and what we're trying to do for Africa. And for us, it was fun because now we're telling how containerization has really helped us, like, really change the game.
Yeah.
Back home. I'm also a student. Brett's courses.
Yeah.
I didn't get a job because of learning Docker, but it was just really cool.
It was a part of your job. I mean,
Yeah.
it was part of your job to learn.
I have
yeah.
to learn
Yeah.
as much as I can.
Are you
so,
teaching Docker now at your company?
I don't teach Docker at the company. He kind of leads teaching Docker at the company, but I teach now to developers outside the company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah, from the video, it looked like you were the pros that were just showing everybody all the Docker things. So they made you look good.
yeah, I do it for other developers, but there's internal trainings which need a lot more expertise and experience.
Yeah.
Which comes from our infrastructure engineer. But for me, it's more of sharing what containerization could mean for developers, as well as, in general, just better best practices for them to be using, going forward. A lot of guys are still stuck in like a bit of a limbo in the kind of tools that they use.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, it's pretty fun. DockerCon has been fun.
Yeah.
I mean, first
Oh,
time.
yeah, this is your first DockerCon too?
First
Okay.
DockerCon, first time speaking. So, wow, it's
What would you talk about?
how we're building infrastructure for the next generation of successful African ventures.
Oh, nice.
We believe in building really stable software. We believe in providing innovative features. And those are the things that we've won using. We've had several companies win awards from Google, and they come back and say, thank you guys for having the most stable APIs ever.
Right. That's great.
And we're
Yeah.
happy about that because it means we're doing something right.
Yeah.
So we're pretty happy.
Is a lot of that on Docker, or all of it on Docker, or what's the?
basically all of it is on Docker now.
Yeah.
A lot with new features that are coming, new products that we're releasing.
Oh, okay.
We have an e-learning platform that we're gonna be rolling out this month. Yeah, actually on the 7th. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're pretty big.
I know, it's
actually,
December now.
My brain
It's
is like,
December now.
what?
We got here. I
Yeah.
think it started on the first. We got here right at the first, so it does.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking it's November as well. So.
Yeah, so it's been a really interesting journey. So basically, that product is completely Docker oriented.
Yeah.
I mean, guys get to code, and it's just all their code is running in Docker containers, being spun up and being destroyed every time that they log in. So for me,
that's awesome.
It's massive.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and working with Ian is always amazing because he's part of the team that designs all these things. So
nice.
I'm a content creator, so it's pretty fun.
Did you do the talk together?
Yeah, we did the talk together. Yeah. So, I think he should also say something, I guess, because he's pretty much.
No?
Yeah.
Hello, Internet. There's this guy over there, but he's not coming to the camera.
Exactly. They call him David Luiz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is Ian, and I work at Africa Stocking as an infrastructure engineer. And we've been trying to adopt Docker for a few months now, and it's really good. It's been a good experience.
Nice.
Yeah.
And now you're a TV star as well on the big screen.
Yeah.
That screen is huge, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're standing in front of it watching yourself, you're like, I can see every pimple in my face, like every little hole in there. Every hair, every gray hair for me. So yeah. Well, thanks for coming. Thanks for talking at the conference. I know as a speaker at DockerCon, it's so much work that goes into talking, and they really run you through the gambit sort of beforehand, giving you all the prep work, getting you great slides. Even the slide deck, honestly, at DockerCon is actually the demos, the template slide they give you. It's subtly much better than like all the little things you get, the assets, the graphics and stuff they give you. Like most conferences, if they give you one, it's like. It's just the background, and they're like, use ours, and nothing, and with Dockers, it's like, you don't really have to use ours, but we're going to give you all this cool stuff that you can use inside it, so that was kind of fun. So hopefully you'll come back next year, speak again. You got to be repeat speakers now. It's no pressure, Got to have a different talk.
Different story.
You got to do a 3.0, like the next level.
Yeah.
Only every second you're doing containers now. You have to like spawn it up every second. So. Well, thanks a lot, Ian and Anthony. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thank you so much.
All right, so now I guess we'll change out again. Thanks a lot, guys. The OG team.
Hello again.
Somewhat OG.
Yeah. I feel like
You gotta bring it in, boys.
we gotta bring it
Come
in.
on.
We
Yeah.
gotta bring it in.
I should have brought a step stool.
I feel like we need to tilt it down a little bit. We could totally do
okay.
that because it doesn't matter. It's the internet, so we could
It's
just.
fine.
But
It's fine.
when I was testing it like this,
Mm-hmm.
and it looked great. It looked great that way. Yeah. Can we all fit in there? So, all right. So what happened this week?
What didn't happen this week, Brett? That's a better question.
We had a Captain's Day and a Community Leadership Day. So at DockerCon, they invite all of the community leaders. That's the meetup organizers largely. There's hundreds and hundreds of them now. And then they have their own events on the first day where they get training on how to be a good community leader, compassionate, diverse, sort of try to drive the community to the people that haven't heard about it yet, and try to spread the sort of the container ecosystem fandom knowledge and all that stuff. A lot of them are actually speakers too. Like
Yeah. Oh, and another shout out. Sorry, Nils, but Michael Irwin is another captain, and he won a community leader award today as well. So.
I wanted to yell out captains, but
Yeah.
I felt like no. I don't want to like be too captainy. Let's just
been a good week,
let the
but yeah,
awesome
I mean,
community leaders, because they work every month. They're working
it's
like
so much work. I think what was covered in the keynote today was that there's a Docker meetup literally every single day of the year around the world.
Yeah, more than
There's
one, I think.
More than
Yeah.
one.
40 per month or something.
Yeah, it's so much work, and it's really a community-driven thing.
Yeah.
So without these community organizers, we just wouldn't have the reach. Yeah, it was really nice to acknowledge both you and Michael. And
That was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the captains are already working really hard, but the community leaders often are, they're the silent people in the background,
Yeah.
getting the food, finding a speaker, making sure the doors are open, and then just doing that constantly every month. And for those of us that have had to run meetups for years, it's like
It's hard work.
it's
It's not just pizza and beer.
True. Yeah, I mean, you're a community leader yourself.
Yeah, you are a
I am
community
too.
leader.
Yeah. And it's actually good thing to talk about this for a moment because let me take this very professional mic.
Yeah. You have well that one looks profesh because from this far away it probably looks like it's some sort of device, but it's actually a pencil and a pen.
Kind of blends nicely in my shirt. Like you
Yeah.
don't see it right now. Anyway, So one thing we talked about during the Community Leaders Summit, right? Yeah. So I think, as many people know, meetups usually happen through a platform called Meetup.com. Docker's there, but there's
Everything
AWS,
is
Azure,
there.
like every tech, even non-tech. There's beer meetups, whatever. But since maybe a year, I don't know, maybe 2 years, Docker has been trying to shift the community off to another platform that's hosted under events.docker.com. Because from a community leader perspective, the organizing meetups through meetup.com is not always that easy because they send out emails without you knowing as a community leader at random times. You have no control over what emails. You don't see if people open them. So it's sometimes kind of hard to manage a community through that platform. So Docker tried to solve that by offering another solution, which works way better from a community leader perspective, but there's still this friction now of getting the members of the community onto this new platform, because it's yet another account you have to make. But it's just a reach out now through this community. Like if you wanna go to meetups, maybe check out that platform. Still, community leaders. I mean, it's up to them, but still, community leaders have the choice to either run it on meetup.com or on events.docker.com, or there's a sync function between the two, but it's still a little bit weird. But I'd say, and especially it's my choice, but I usually announce, I do the Brussels meetup, I usually announce meetups first on events.docker.com, and then after a week I bring them to meetup.com, so kind of to give the people on the events.docker.com platform an edge.
Yeah.
Competitive
So,
advantage.
yep.
Yeah. So, and how long have you run that meetup?
5 years. So in January we're celebrating our 5-year
That's
anniversary.
crazy because Docker is going to only celebrate their 6th. So
Yeah.
you're
Yeah. So I saw the famous Solomon YouTube or
lightning talk
Python
from
Python
PyCon.
PyCon.
Yeah, in March started playing with it, and then I mean I was no expert. It's like let's bring some people together and talk about this thing.
Were you
And,
doing it? You were doing it by yourself without Docker's help, I'm assuming. Like Docker didn't have a community program at that time because they barely had a. They weren't even a company,
actually
right?
think
That wasn't
it
even a
was Victor from Docker. I think was already kind of active.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe interning for Docker or something.
Okay.
Can't recall, but there was
Yeah.
some.
So he was the beginnings. The
Yeah,
beginnings
yeah.
of an entire group of people at Docker that run the community.
So it was. They've always been very helpful since the very beginning. And if I recall correctly, it was the very first meetup. They already kind of sent stickers and swag and
First.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need like first.
Yeah.
You need a little sticker.
Yep.
Hand a little Mobies with the number one. So that's pretty impressive. And now, after all that time, what is the one thing that comes out of that? Are you still getting like new people every month? Is it?
So it's always amazing to see, and I can't recall, was it you who once shared this Forrester kind of research thing where they ask people in IT, whatever that means, about adoption of certain technologies, and I think container technology was only known by, people have heard of containers by 9% of their test group, so there's still 91% of IT people that we have to bring over, and you see that at meetups too. Like every single time, and it's a good thing, of course. Every single time, there's new people, there's expert people, and the nice thing is that it's not me pushing stuff. It's like literally a community. So experts helping new people, sharing their use cases. Like start by doing this, then roll it over, do monitoring, launch a swarm. Like So as an organizer, it's sometimes hard to find the right content that both works for beginners and for experts.
Is that the hardest part, you think? Like getting right speakers and content and...
In general, getting speakers is not easy. So maybe it's a Belgian thing, but people are not super open to share their use case. No, yeah. Well, maybe a bit shy. I don't know.
Maybe a bit shy, yeah.
So I really have to pull them over. Like no, you're cool idea. Like
sometimes if you just give them enough, like if you're confident in them, they suddenly can have they get a little confidence that they might
But yeah. So anyway, so I tend to always keep the content like, let's say, mid-level, and then I always know, and that's the nice thing, that when questions come up, experts in the room can answer the questions. Like there's a good mixture of conversations going on all the time. So it's not just because sometimes people at meetups expect too much of a mini conference, like good speakers and stuff like that. But I always try to recall the idea that no, it's a community thing. Like I bring in pizza and then find a venue, but then still we're all in this game, and we all have to help each other. So.
Right.
That's kind of leads into one interesting announcement this morning, because you mentioned that there's just so many people that haven't learned about container technology yet. And I think in Cal or Banjot this morning in the keynote said that there's roughly 15 million developers working in the enterprise that still don't have access to, for example, Docker for Mac or Docker for Windows because of corporate policies or security internally. That was one big announcement. Today is to sort of serve those enterprise developers. It was yesterday. Docker Desktop for Enterprise. So if you're working in an enterprise environment and you want to use Docker, previously it was a little hard because you couldn't install your own software, but now there's a distribution to give you Docker for Desktop to enable you to use the same Docker for Desktop experience as everyone else in the community. Because I think Docker, we started as a really small community-based thing, and now the reality is that Docker is very much an enterprise tool. And I'm really happy that this DockerCon was sort of the first one where we saw a lot of product announcements catering to those developers who are working in different industries with high regulations. So I think there's just the floodgates are still open. We're still going to have, those 91% of developers that haven't heard or aren't using container technology. Lots of new interesting ways to serve them, which is really exciting.
Yep, totally agree. Like from the inside, it sometimes looks for us like we need to only start building very expert level tooling, but no, it's still, we from the outside, we still need to be aware that there's still so much people to convince and bring over with simple tools. And I guess there's been a bunch of announcements that will hopefully bring even more people over.
It's like both ends of the spectrum. We need more tools for beginners and more tools for the teams that are more advanced. Like, and that's like build kit and multi-stage builds and Docker app and all these new things that those are all really cool things. It's not day one stuff for people.
But CNAB, for example, is very much a day one thing. So
today, tell us about CNAB.
I'll tell you about CNAB. So
I heard about this thing called CNAB.
Yeah. We were very happy to have Matt Butcher from Microsoft on stage this morning at DockerCon to announce sort of officially the cloud native application bundles, which are, if you imagine, we often have Docker Compose files or Helm charts to describe the application, but what we're missing from that bundle is a way to make infrastructure part of it, and then also a way to make sure that everyone's getting the same thing. You can go to cnab.io, and check out more. So it is just a spec, it's not necessarily a new tool. But the idea is, for example, the one that we used in the keynote was that Hello World application experience. So let's say WordPress, which Nils knows a lot about. Getting WordPress up and running is actually really complex.
I disagree that that's the Hello World example.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about
I like that he actually tried to do it, though.
Yeah.
He's like, this
of
is
all
our
the
Hello World.
things, this is not really a Hello World kind of.
But let's talk about
anyway.
Let's take the example of a Docker Swarm application that has a database and some web front end. You have those two services managed by Docker, but what about the nodes and the infrastructure underneath it? What happens when you need to upgrade? All of those questions aren't answered just with Docker Compose or a Helm chart alone. So the Cloud Native Application Bundle is sort of lowering the barrier and making Cloud Native applications as easy to install as a desktop app. So the big kind of value prop there is with Cloud Native applications were as easy to install as a desktop application. So it's sort of like the PKG of the cloud native world, which I'm really excited about. I work with lots of companies that not everyone's an expert, and there's been a lot of tools cater to experts, and people are put off because they don't, they're not a Helm expert or a Kubernetes expert, so they feel like this technology is not for them. I think this is a really good movement in the right direction.
It feels a little science fiction too when you say, oh yeah, we're going to have a click, a button that's going to install an application that and we've had, and if you look around, you see, well, we have stuff like that now, don't we? And what that really is usually it's a specific cloud vendor, like
in a
let's say,
marketplace.
that has a marketplace that has a very specific thing, but it's usually just one app, not a multi-app, in-tier sort of solution. It's usually like, well, maybe if it's WordPress, it'll be WordPress plus a database, but that database is probably running on localhost and probably not exactly, it's not like it's setting up multiple servers on multiple subnets and describing things. It reminds me back of the days of like Bluehost and these other, the places where you would go and it was pre-Docker and you would get a little VM and it would automatically install
Your
a
little lamp stack.
cPanel, if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that stuff. And this is like, to me, this is like the next evolution of that is that you can do that anywhere with any tool, assuming that you can get I'm assuming we're going to have some sort of plugin model where the APIs are going to have like a CNAP compatible
Yeah, I guess
descriptor
where
or
cloud or whatever vendor within that cycle can
CNAP compatible.
can hook in basically.
Because you're not going to want to put raw API in your CNAP YAML files, your bundle.
Yeah.
So we're going to end up with like a place where you can go get a bunch of CNAPs.
So
compatible bundles and a bundle store. Like what is this going to be in a registry? Just be in Docker Hub?
Maybe.
What I like about the whole idea, although I haven't read much about it, just checked the website, so I still have to do my due diligence. But and we joked about it yesterday, like this XKCD cartoon where we have 14 standards, we need to bring this all together, and then new standard. Now we have 15.
Yeah.
I think the key here is that they don't want to replace any kind of standard or tool that already exists. So like I've spent hours and hours on CloudFormation, getting it right, moved over to Terraform, like none of that is going away. So if you're using those tools today, Docker Compose, Terraform, whatever, it's going to be part of that spec or part of your CNAP file, YAML file, whatever. So it's not trying to throw things away. I think I even saw on the CNAP websites. So it's Microsoft and Docker, but I saw HashiCorp is also a partner, and there was a fourth one, country call.
Oh, so already on the CNAP?
On CNAP.io, there's 4 partners, and I guess many more will join this, or hopefully will join this effort.
That's pretty fantastic.
And then I think they're going to try to push it to the CNCF.
Yeah, I heard that. They were going to.
So that's
approach
a cloud native.
They didn't announce that today, right? They didn't say anything about CNCF, but they did
No, they didn't.
But
It. Since they call it Cloud Native Application Bundle, I guess there's already kind of it's a little hook.
Yeah, that's right. It's got the right name. It definitely has the right name. So, do you think we'll see? Like, will there be other tools besides Docker App that do similar things on other platforms, possibly that aren't? Because Docker App is obviously very specific to Docker. So I'm wondering how this is going to flesh out in the community. Like, are we going to see other implementations?
I think it's maybe at first just tools that also implement the spec.
Yeah.
I see the opportunity for both. What would be great is if, let's say, for example, in the Google Cloud Marketplace, there's a marketplace app could just be a cloud native bundle.
Yeah.
Or you can upload sort of the way. I guess the it's sort of like AMIs in AWS, where the community can submit them, and then they have their own proprietary ones. But the tooling underneath it implements a spec, and you don't really have to worry about it as an end user. I can see that happening.
Like CloudFormation for everybody.
For everyone,
I guess.
Yeah. But it still means that you still have to learn all those tools. It just means that you don't necessarily you have to use every tool every time. Like, in other words, I have to know what Terraform is and how to use it, but I maybe don't have to use that tool every time I want to deploy something. I can have a single set of tools that they will then use the Terraform on my behalf.
You pick what you need, I guess, or you pick what you
Yep.
you're already having in your
And then,
tool chain.
and then the GUI demonstration, I was a little fuzzy on exactly
What's
how
the name of that thing again?
Duffel.
Duffel.
Yeah.
Duffel.
Yeah,
like a duffel bag. Is that?
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. Where you
What
put
is it? What is a
everything.
duffel bag?
It's like that big long bag with 2 handles on the top.
Oh, that he brought out with the wine and the grapes?
No, that's
Or
just a shopping bag.
Oh. That was a grocery bag.
That's just a grocery bag. Because he went to the grocery store to buy the one in the grocery.
That's right. That's true.
I mean, you were in the military. You should know what a duffel bag is,
No,
right?
we never
You
called it
don't
duffel
have.
bag. It was a sea bag.
Okay.
And it was that big long green thing that you put on your back that's like
Yeah, fair.
head to toe, and it's like you could fit a dead body in there. Like it's like it's
All right,
it
this
fits
is
your
getting off the rails
it,
really
fit-
quickly.
it fits your whole
Okay,
it fits
okay.
a whole
Yeah.
whole life in there. You got to
Yeah.
put your whole life in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So
yeah.
we have
I
a
think
couple of questions, but they're not related to announcements. So are we done talking about Docker announcements?
I think so.
Um,
I will let you,
So
gentlemen.
what wrapping up, so we talked about CNAP, Docker app, Docker desktop
Docker
for enterprise, and Docker assembly.
Docker
Assemble?
assembly.
Assemble.
We
Docker
talked about-
assemble.
Yeah,
Yeah.
did we talk about that? Maybe?
No.
I don't think
No,
so.
we didn't talk about it.
So,
Yeah, so Assemble is a GUI. No, that's
it's just a
Docker
tool.
app. Yeah.
Visualizer, yeah. Docker Assemble is a tool that's just now available for enterprise so far, but it basically introspects your application files. So if you're in the root directory and you run Docker Assemble, it's going to say, oh, I see pom.xml. I know that then I need to build an image with these certain properties, or you can
Right.
predict the ports that
Yeah.
are going to need to be opened, or appropriate health checks if you can
Yeah,
detect that it's using Postgres.
Right. It was reading the application
Yeah,
so I
song
think
or whatever.
that's the
something.
going from the idea of like, should we even still build Docker files
Yeah.
ourselves, or can
Yeah,
we kind of automate
Can we
that
automate?
process?
Can we remove the Docker
Yeah.
file away and not make it up to a human being to have to do
Yeah,
it? Let's
right.
write software to do it for us. So,
Right.
because the example used during the captain's meeting on Monday was that I think the 3 of us could write a song about all of the commands in the Docker file and get up on stage and sing it really
Yeah.
easily, but not everyone has that same knowledge, and it's really we want to make this tooling more just open and accessible to other people who maybe don't have a ton of time to sit and learn every single thing about a Docker file.
But yeah, wasn't
Yeah.
the Docker file documentation page like the most,
the most
like by far
visited
the
one.
most
Yeah.
visited page?
And
on
I think
the
I think the second most
website?
one
Yeah.
is the
Compose
compose
reference.
documentation.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
those two, yeah, exactly. Which is the 2 pages that I leave on my browser every day.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I
same.
look
Like,
at it all
even
the
after
time.
5 years, like I forgot that
Yeah.
thing.
My-
I know, yeah, right.
My browser knows
Yeah.
too that if I type in Docker in anything, it knows, like Google knows that it needs to look up the documentation
Yeah,
first.
yeah,
So.
yeah.
And then we had, I almost said DAB, but that's
DAC.
that's DAC. And so DAC is the opposite of that. DAC is taking your application that is already running on a server that's already in a binary and doesn't have
Yeah.
you may not even have the source files, and you just need to get that app off the server and into a container. And I think they did a demo around a .NET app running on an IIS server,
Yeah.
and they just needed to get that into a container so that they could get rid of an old Windows server.
Yeah.
And I came from that world of apps that were made by an independent little vendor that doesn't exist anymore, and the only place you have it is in production and maybe like a test server. And how do you the installation instructions are in a Word document, and the person that did it last was gone. Those apps still exist, so I think that's what that was for, right? It was a solution to the legacy app problem. And I get confused between the two because they're almost completely polar opposites in their approach. Of one, you use the source code to create a Docker file; the other one takes the
Just the environment running on the server
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
creates a Docker application. from it.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
But
think
both of those are enterprise tools. Those are both.
Yeah,
out there.
or at least because
for now, yeah.
that's I mean, quick side note, but the demos they always do on stage are a bit corny and funny, but
Sure.
they put the finger on the pulse, like it's really, these situations probably happen every day
Yeah.
in the enterprise or in companies that have been around for tens and tens of years and have some weird application that no one
Right.
doesn't want to touch.
Because no one wants to talk about that at a
No,
conference,
and-
so it doesn't get a lot of
No, indeed, and that's also a way to bring on more people, more companies into the container ecospace. So I think, just in general, I think this year they did a good job in providing tools or working on tools that cater to that group or giant group of people to just make it easy to work with Docker, like almost not having to work with Docker, like
Right. we have Docker, but I don't know how I use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just there, and and now they don't even have to install it if they're on the new Docker. If they're going to use a new Docker desktop enterprise, they won't even have to know how to install it on their machine because someone's going to do that for them.
So speaking of learning Docker, when's your workshop, Brett? In just a couple minutes, so.
No, 1:30.
Oh, at 1:30. Okay, good.
You were like, you're like, so we got to wrap this up.
Yeah.
But we actually have been talking a lot.
All right, I have to excuse myself because I have a talk that I need to quickly finish my demo for.
And you're doing
Yeah, I'm going to repeat my session that I did yesterday about using Docker for development in containers. It's in the Black Belt track in case you're watching this from DockerCon, so hello. But,
and it wasn't on the schedule, right?
It's not on the schedule. I'm
feeling
someone got really sick, so I'm filling in for them. But I had a full house last time. I think some people didn't get in, so hopefully those folks.
They don't have to wait for the videos later.
They don't have to wait for the video, so they'll come check me out. But
all right, well, thank you so much for coming.
Stuff. I'll leave you to answer questions.
Cool.
See ya.
See you next time. All right. So we have a couple of questions. Let's see if we can answer those.
Yep.
So we're gonna just sort of go through it in order, and Cyan says, hi, what is a good combination of technologies that I need to learn with Docker if I want to switch to DevOps role? I currently work on IBM tools such as Tivoli Monitoring and Netcool Omnibus. So that's a really great question. So I think there's a lot of people both on the dev side and the ops side that want to get into DevOps, and there's obviously a ton of resources on the internet, but and there's actually, I have a post, so I will put this in chat after I put my mic down, but there's a post I have on my Ask Me Anything on GitHub where I talk about like the technology. You need to invest in a couple of things. One is you need to learn specific technologies and workflows with those technologies that I think are common amongst the community. But it's not just about tools, it's also about mindset. So there's an actual course by a couple of guys in Texas, I think they're in Austin, do a DevOps day in Austin, and I cannot remember the link of that either, but I will get that to you. And because I took that course on LinkedIn Learning, or it's on Lynda, and it's actually a really long course, and it talks about the mindset and the methodologies of what it means to be DevOps. So I think that's just as important as learning like Jenkins and learning Docker. But obviously Docker, I think, is a big part of that now. I think using tools like Docker actually force you a little bit into that mindset of how I got to get my code into production, and I have to have it in a certain way for this to all work, because Docker was built with DevOps in mind, like it was designed that way originally. Would you say?
Yeah, maybe a bit more specific about tooling. I think, well, Docker is of course one thing. I'd like to think of it a good common language between a developer side of a company and an operations side of a company. But I think there's also more to that. When you want to run a Dockerized application, you need to run it somewhere, right? So, definitely check out Docker Swarm, which is their orchestration tool. There's obviously also Kubernetes. They're a bit in the same space, like both orchestrators, but I think from especially from a learning perspective, I think Docker Swarm is a bit easier to grasp and to get familiar with orchestration tools and all the bells and whistles. I don't know if maybe you can chime in here.
Yeah.
You're very much aware of Docker Swarm.
Yeah.
You run it in companies, I guess, in production.
Yeah. I mean, as you learn the container tooling, and then you learn that you need what we call an orchestrator that runs multiple servers all sort of act as one. I tend to recommend Swarm to people, and so those are in my courses. You'll find stuff on that on this same YouTube channel you're watching right now. And that I tend to have people learn Swarm because they can learn it really quickly and they can get productive. They can learn the concepts, and then if they need to go and learn Kubernetes after that, I think it's like a good stepping stone to learning the next tool, because Kubernetes has got a lot more features to it. It solves a lot more edge case problems, so it can be challenging to start off with it just because there's so much there. So I like to kind of ease people into it a little bit.
Yeah, I think we can do a 10-hour session just about the difference between Swarm and Kubernetes, but and they're both great tools.
They're
and
both very similar and both totally not similar.
Yeah, indeed. They have their they have their use cases. So yeah, let's not go into that discussion. But I think from a learning perspective, Swarm is the barrier of entry is much lower for Swarm than for Kubernetes, because Kubernetes can do much more, but it's harder to get started. And I think maybe a plug here for another Docker Captain, playwithdocker.com is a great online tool that you can use to play with Docker, as it says in the title. But you can easily, in that tool, you'll see it's kind of a terminal in the browser, and you can start up servers and stuff like that, and also run a Docker Swarm cluster out of the box. So it's a great interactive learning platform to do stuff with Docker and do stuff with Docker Swarm and getting to know all these tools without even having to install anything on your machine. It's just running in a browser.
It's a really low barrier of entry. You can really get started quickly without having to even. Because sometimes, I mean, even just in my course, you spend the first hour probably learning how to install the right Docker on your machine, depending on which machine you have, and that sometimes can be. That can kind of sometimes not be what you want. You just want to get to the learning instead of the dependencies or the pre-requirements.
Yeah, I sometimes even use it to do quick little things, and I know, okay, I'm just not going to pollute my own laptop. I'll just spin up a quick play with Docker, run my command, see the output, and done, and nothing ever run on my own machine.
I just had an idea for something for play for Docker. You know how we have Pastebin and other tools where, actually not Pastebin, CodePen.io.
Yeah. So it's comparable.
Or like Fiddle,
JS Fiddle.
Yeah, we have these places where you can put stuff to show how it works, but people get URLs to show you how it works. Like, hey, I did this. Check my work. And with Play with Docker, the URL works for the 4 hours, and you can go see their session. But what if there was some sort of replayability?
So I think there's
obviously security concerns there, but
I need to double check. But there's a somewhat of a feature where you can, because it has a way of very quickly spinning up a Docker Swarm of 5 servers, 3 managers, 2 worker nodes, and I think Marcos at one point had this sort of config file that you can like upload, and then it sets up whatever. But I can't recall what. Is that feature still
We'll have
there?
to talk to him about that.
Yeah, need to double check that. But there was an idea at least to do something along those lines. So it's not like you go to the URL and it immediately. Yeah. Didn't they have these buttons also? Like, for instance, who used this? Like in a GitHub repository for Elasticsearch, let's say, they don't use it, but where you used to be able to say, run this on, for instance, on AWS, and they had a similar button like, try this on Play with Docker, like
you can put it in your GitHub README, and you can click one-click install.
And then in the README, it has this button. You click it, and then it opens the Play with Docker interface and starts installing everything and getting it ready.
Yeah, so that's pretty close. So basically, my idea is crap. It's already been done. So up next, we have a question on Telnet for Docker published ports from another box. I need to Telnet for Docker published ports from another box. I'm actually not sure what that question means. Are you trying to Telnet to a Docker machine just to test ports? Because usually Telnet is nowadays just used to validate that a port you can connect to it. I'm not sure if you're asking if you can run Telnet in Docker, or if you can actually have a container that has Telnet in it, or so maybe if you're still still watching live and you have that Telnet question, try to give me a little more information, and then maybe we can give you an answer on that. Alex says, so what sort of tools would novices need? So I would say I'm assuming you mean novices of containers and Docker. So I mean, step one is definitely Docker, and then getting that installed. And I think the other tools that you would need are probably going to be the tools you use in your company, and the trick is to figure out how to get Docker to work with those tools. So if you've got Linux servers, how do you run Docker on your Linux server? If you got Windows, what version of Windows are you going to be able to get Docker to run on? And then if you've got code repositories and Jenkins or CI/CD, how do you get Docker to work on that? It's more about, I don't look at it as like needing a bunch of other tools to get started with Docker. It's more like, now that once you've learned Docker, how do you get that to work with your tools that you've already got? So I hope that helps. I don't know if you have a better answer to that, but.
No, I think, I'm trying to, no, again, I mean, I'm just repeating myself, like, yeah, start with Docker, and then tools like Swarm help you understand, okay, how do we run this in an organization? You don't necessarily have to use Docker Swarm in an organization, but at least it helps you reason about, okay, this thing now runs on my computer, how do I bring it to a production environment?
Right.
So it's
all the steps.
Just, also that mindset you talked earlier about is just kind of baking it into your brain to know how do we run things, go from one to another.
Yeah.
So
good answer and good question. Hello. We have a question on Docker stack deploy update. Is the checksum of the image used to decide if a container update is required or not? Yes. So in Docker Swarm. For Docker Swarm, the Docker stack deploy command, which is how you deploy a stack, it's basically a compose file, you deploy a bunch of container services. What Docker Swarm will do is it actually goes and grabs the image tag that you asked for, and it will take the latest, it'll take the checksum, the hash, of that image, and then assign that to every server to sort of guarantee that everybody gets the same image. Because if you could have a situation where you upload a bunch of images at the same time that someone's pulling them, and then they accidentally, if you're reusing tags, if you don't reuse tags, which I recommend, just never reuse a tag, only use it once, and then you won't have that problem with tags. You won't have to worry about that so much because the tag will always be the correct image because you had, but that's more of a workflow process. You have to kind of enforce that.
I think, and you use it in your workshop. The example of if you use latest, which automatically is the tag that jumps
keeps
to the
moving.
newest one, and if during it deploys, let's say you're deploying 100 containers over a Docker Swarm, and during that deploy, a developer builds a new image and pushes it to the repository, you might end up like maybe 50 containers have been run with the before latest tag actually, which was latest at that time. The new version gets pushed. So that's the new latest. So suddenly you have 50 old containers and 50 new containers. While they were actually, you were expecting. I mean, they need to be the same. So anyway, I think the checksum fixes that. So even if you use latest, by using that, or the checksum that's being used, make sure that no, it's always this specific version of the image that gets deployed across the entire cluster.
You got to guarantee it. Even like you and I having a conversation, if we're in ops, and I just say, I just made that file, we're going to use latest. The time it takes from, in a human workflow, things would change if you were reusing the tag. Much less on a server. So maybe even I test something on a CI system, and it's like, it all works, but by the time it gets into production to even be launched, it's probably going to change if people are constantly updating their images, or like they should with CI/CD. Alec actually is clarifying his question. He's asking about, related to what you said about reaching the next 90% with better tools, what do those tools look like? So I think that's in reference to the announcements we were talking about, that Docker announced a couple of tools that were both for new people to make it easier through GUIs to actually, so that was Docker Assemble, is that right? No. Docker Desktop, I'm getting it wrong. Docker Desktop App.
So
something, the GUI, the GUI that they use on the first day that they used to.
Yeah, that's the application designer, I think.
Is that application designer?
Yeah.
So that was an example I would say they did a demo on day one. So if you watch the day one keynote, which should be live on their website now, you can. They have if you're going to buy the new Docker Desktop Enterprise Edition, which I do believe they're going to license that and sell that to companies. You get an extra thing out of the box that is this new custom GUI. That essentially replaces the need for you to create your own Docker files and compose files for standard applications. It's designed for you to run them locally. It's not. I don't think it's designed for you to make like the perfect production image right then. But it's more about, hey, the cloud hello world kind of thing with WordPress. I need WordPress and a database and.
Yeah, because I actually think there's kind of an overlap between two tools, like that tool and then the CNAP, which we talked earlier about. I think the first demo they gave was the speaker bringing up his reveal.js slides through one of those bundles on his local machine. So even that tool, although it sounds very like production-wide kind of changes you want to make, I think you can also use it or use that spec to describe an application.
I just realized that I wasn't quite sure what was happening.
He had an icon on his desktop, double-clicked it, and then it opened a bit of a UI where you fill in the port and the name for that application, so a couple of variables, I guess, and then it spun up his reveal.js slide, so it was very local to his machine, no crazy swarms of Kubernetes, just a simple thing, but through that CNAP specification, so I guess it kind of serves a similar purpose just in the local host kind of environment.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's also new. So
I think we also have to play with them. And all right. So one more question, if possible, could you please interview Stefan? Is he sitting behind you in the light tunnel? I don't know. Is he? I don't see him. Oh, he is. He's back there. Right. By request, we will go ask.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Oh no, I need to. You get it. So let's see if there's more questions by now. Not sure what they're doing over there. So anyway, kind of a context here. We're in the hallway track where people can just subscribe kind of a topic, put it on one of these dashboards. I think it's just not in the picture. And then you get these seated areas where you can go with a group of people, talk about that specific topic that you put on the board. So it's kind of a unconference thing, I think. And that's...
So they're actually in a hallway track.
Yeah, I was just explaining what hallway tracks.
Hallway track. Well, first off, that's hilarious that the quality of the video is good enough that someone can actually identify a person across the room.
Yeah.
And that you knew who he was, and that he's a really cool guy. So he won't. I don't think he'll be able to make it. We've actually got to go to a workshop now, so we're going to have to wrap this up.
Yeah.
But,
so a very good and specific question there. It's not CNAB, it's CNAB. So CNAB. I think Brett is gonna post it. I might have it still open if that's. So that's the URL. No, it's not focusing. But it should look like a very colorful kind of website. cnab.io. Yeah, Brett just posted in the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. So great question. Got to clear that up.
Yep.
Well, this has been fun. We've talked about a lot of things. We've interviewed a lot of people. And we are now going to go and have fun ourselves doing a workshop on Swarm. This is a repeat session because the first one was full and the packed rooms need to repeat the stuff.
I'm doing a .NET workshop by now.
Oh.
So modernizing apps, the kind of idea like you have .NET applications running in your company for many years. How do you bring them over?
All right, so we're going to go have some fun.
Yep.
Thanks, Nils, and thanks, Internet. And we'll see you next time on YouTube Live.
Peace. Do you have an outro, like all these YouTubers?
I should.
You should have an outro, yeah.
Like sounds and effects.
It needs to be unique, though, so...
Yeah. I got a guy.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.